Hello, we're here today to talk about the 5020 series Flomore injection pump. You've obviously bought a Flomore product and we thank you for your business. You can see we have a QR code down here. You'll find the QR code on the pump and also on the box to view this installation and operations video. Thank you again for purchasing Flomore products. So we're going to go ahead and get started and talk about the 5020 series. The model number on this pump is a 5025, which is a 3/4 inch fluid end. And we'll talk about a little bit more about what the fluid end is trimmed with later. So we're going to get started. Once you take the pump out of the box, there's a few items that are shipped loose in the box, and we're going to go over those items now. You have an A131 safety relief valve. You have a A558 grease jack. Also, you have an A2599 air breather. Also, you have a Flomore pack and adjustment wrench, which we'll talk about a little later with the fluid end. So let's get started. I'm going to remove all the plugs that are protecting all the threads, and also the protector on the threads for the relief valve. You also want to take a minute to Teflon tape everything good to help prevent leaks. So we're going to go ahead and get the safety relief valve installed. You get that nice and snug. Take your air breather. Get that threaded in. And the grease jack we're going to talk about a little later when we get to adjusting the fluid end. So what we're going to talk about is the maximum supply pressure to run the 5020 series is 50 psi. This regulator and gauge assembly is actually part of the pump, and it regulates supply to the pilot valve for a switching mechanism. So this valve is, this regulator is preset at 12 psi from the factory. It does not regulate the inlet supply pressure on the backside of this inlet valve or this control valve. So naturally, it might be a good idea to consider a lubricator, filter, and regulator system. It's not mandatory, but it's a good idea to clean your gas up and also lubricate your gas. And you also have a regulator to regulate it down in case you got better than 50 psi coming to the pump. So if you have more than 50 pounds of supply, this relief valve is set at 50 to protect the diaphragm and the housing. So 50 psi is the maximum inlet supply pressure to run this pump. So once you determine all that, your inlet supply pressure is all good to go, remove the main cover from the power side. And we're going to talk about the oil that we use for the 5020 series. We're going to zoom in where you can take a closer look at this. After you remove the cover, you want to fill this power chamber with about 3 quarts of lightweight, non-detergent, preferably 10 weight is what we recommend, 10 weight non-detergent. Some people use more mystery fluid or transmission fluid, which is also good, but I recommend just a lightweight, non-detergent oil right here. Also, we're going to talk about if you have a 1 inch, inch and a quarter fluid end, you can plug this drain vent here and also fill this chamber with oil just where it's touching the plunger, because on the 1 1/4 inch fluid end, you don't have a grease jack option, and it helps lubricate the packing. So we'll move on to the fluid end. One of the first things you want to consider when you dealing with the fluid end is also think about putting a line check in your discharge line in between the pump's discharge and your injection point. And you also at this time need to consider what the pressures are to determine the pressure of the line check that you need to install. Here I have a 1/4 inch, 6,000 pound line check. We also have a 10,000, we have a 15,000 available. But at this time, it's a good idea to think about installing your line check in the discharge side of the line. You also want to consider possible Y strainer coming from the tank and the suction line to prevent trash from getting up inside the fluid end. This is time to install your grease jack, which this is an 1/8" threads. We recommend putting a little Teflon tape on here, and you install it into this port on the fluid end side. Also available is a couple of lube sticks that you put in your grease jack to make sure you got lube for your packing. All right. Once you do get all that hooked up and ready to go, you want to open your bleeder valve and slowly turn on your pump. Get your fluid into the inside of the head and make sure your bleeder valve's open to bleed out all the air until you get full flow. Once you get full flow, you close your bleeder valve. You should see fluid start to go down in your sight gauge. Once that's determined to set your rate, you have two ways to set your rate. You can set your rate by the speed, by this control valve, and also by the stroke length. So it's always a good idea if you try to get a low rate to run the pump a little faster on the short stroke as opposed to running it slow on a long stroke. So, but you have two ways to adjust your rate, by the speed of the pump and also by the stroke length of the plunger. You also at this time want to consider and know that if continuous operation, the maximum strokes per minute on a 50/20 series is 60. If you run an intermittent for like testing of some kind and you need a high rate fast, you can run it up to 75 strokes per minute. But under continuous conditions, 60 strokes per minute is the maximum you can run a 50/20 series. So once you get the pump start running and you've bled the air out, you're going to let your packing get wet, for a lack of terms, and set in for maybe 15 minutes. Once that happens, you can shut the pump down because you're going to get some slight weepage. You want to open your priming valve again with the pump shut down. It bleeds the pressure inside the head. You never want to adjust packing against pressure because you're pushing from both sides. You have a force coming from both ends. So it's always a good idea to bleed the pressure from the fluid end when making the adjustment. I'd like to zoom in a little closer where we can show you what we're talking about. Okay, with your bleeder valve open, you want to go ahead and just snug it down, as you can see we're doing here. All right, once that is done, you want to get your pump cranked up again, make sure all the air is out, and close your bleeder valve. And it's a good idea to let it run 15-20 minutes. If you got the time to do that, you're going to probably increase your packing life tremendously. So thank you for taking the time to watch this video. I hope it was informative. Also, look out for our YouTube channel and to see more of these installation operation videos. Thank you again for buying Flomore products.